one. I think we're live, Steve. I think we are live. Hello and welcome back. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. Today is, just like title said, the epic live brew session. The reason why I say epic, because I don't think anybody done in YouTube history. So Steve and I, we are going to brew exact same coffee. Okay. We got the natural geisha from Cup of Excellence. This number 4 means what? That's the took fourth place, right?
The fourth highest, highest grossing. Yeah.
Yes.
You forgot to mention this is a Taiwan-grown coffee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, this is Taiwan.
Taiwan, yeah.
Which is Taiwan cool. Coffee.
I've never had a Taiwanese-grown coffee before.
Okay, and then not only that, we are going to match exact water quality as well. So, so Steve and I, actually Steve come up with the water recipe. So we match the water quality with GHKH, right?
Yes. So we're doing it would be a 70-30 water, which is 70 ppm general hardness, 30 ppm carbonate hardness. And that's broken up as 40 ppm of magnesium, 30 ppm of calcium, and 30 ppm of bicarbonate.
Okay, so we got we have the same water
as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Same water, same coffee, and same brewing system as well. And this we are going to use pretty much identical and same grinder.
Oh well, same Burrs.
Same Burrs. Okay, same Burrs. So here's one caveat to it. So I'm using the DF64 SSP and Steve is going to use a P64 from option O.
Right.
But Steve is going to match the RPM. Okay, so 1400 RPM with DF64. So pretty much we are close as get.
Okay? We're as close as we can reasonably get.
Yeah. And then also we are going to use the Steve's his pour over technique as well. Can you tell us about your technique, Steve?
Yeah, so I use an origami dripper for most of my pour overs. I use a Kalita Wave 185 filter, so flat bottom filter. And my recipe is basically designed around making kind of a smaller batch. So I brewed 16 to 256 grams of coffee to grams of water. And what I've worked out over, a period of practicing and kind of refining things is that I really like low agitation brewing. So I use a MeloDrip, and I keep my brews rather simple. I do 2 pours after a bloom stage. So there's 3 total pours, a 50-gram bloom, followed by a 100-gram MeloDrip pour, followed by a third pour, which is about 150 grams, but broken up with just a really quick pour to rinse down some grinds from the side of the filter. Other than that, it's really low agitation. There's maybe a little tiny bit of stirring involved, but you'll see as you're brewing, you'll see at least, there will be like a really thin layer of clear water on top of the ground slurry. So there's not a lot of agitation happening. There's not a lot of grounds being like moved upward and around the slurry. And what I find is that kind of emphasizes acidity, sweetness, and clarity of flavor. So it's a really good method for the way that, I like to drink my coffee. It doesn't have a ton of body, but it's got really good, clean, clear flavor. And that's what I like out of my filter coffee.
So again, so this is coffee from Taiwan. And then, do you remember the tasting notes?
They're in the bag. I would say, so the last time that I brewed this, I got a little bit of like citrus like bergamot. So a little bit of bergamot orange, a little bit of honey sweetness. My floral was a little bit, I would say, suppressed. Like it was very lightly floral. It felt like it could have been more floral. But overall, it was really nice. It was a very sweet, well-balanced, low-body coffee. Their tasting notes that they provide are chamomile, pear, clementine, white tea. They say it's a medium acidity and a tea-like body. That matches pretty well with what I experienced before. I'm hoping this time that we get a little bit more stone fruit or floral out of it. I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more of that kind of typical geisha profile.
I think that's the reason why you kind of like tweak the water recipe based on this coffee.
Yeah, exactly. So the last time that I brewed this coffee, it was a 70-30 water, but it was all magnesium for the general hardness. So I've split the general hardness into magnesium and calcium, calcium for me, I typically find increases citric brightness or citric acidity a little bit more. But that can kind of, there's sort of an interplay there. It's kind of a balance of the acidity that you get. So we'll see how this goes. I haven't brewed this coffee with this water yet, but I have a hunch that it'll be a little bit more dynamic than.
Okay, so I mean, as you can see, we are talking about the water quality. I mean, we've been making our own water by just buy the material. It's so inexpensive. Okay, so we got the calcium chloride. So this the potassium bicarbonate. So this same as the uh, baking soda. Okay, so sodium and potassium. What's the the difference?
Well, so in terms of bicarbonate, that's exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
For the sodium versus potassium ions, they do have a slightly different flavor, especially if you start increasing your concentration. I think at 30 ppm, we will not notice a difference between the two. But you and I are both using baking soda anyway.
Yeah, baking soda. Yeah, exactly. And then also you just need some Epsom salt. Okay, that's it. Epsom salt.
Make sure it's not scented as like
exactly. Yeah.
Salt. You want to make sure that it's unscented, just plain Epsom salt. Otherwise, you're drinking, fragrance in your coffee.
Yep, you don't want that. So just make sure, get the regular Epsom salt from, like CVS or whatever, pharmacy. Yeah. And then let's see what else. I think. Are you ready?
I'm ready. My water's ready. I got to step up.
Okay, let's do it. So Steven and I, we are going to do the live brew session, and you get to see side by side. Okay, and his technique versus mine. Okay. Yeah. Here we go. I'm gonna flip the camera here for a second. As you can see from there, I mean, Steve has quite a few grind selections. Okay, grind collections. If you're brand new to the channel, and Steve has a P100 to the left, P64, followed by Orbit.
Akaya Orbit.
Akaya Orbit. By the way, so Steve is the main man at Akaya. So if you don't know Steve.
I'm the e-commerce manager at Akaya. I'm not the main anything.
And also, Steve has quite a few videos on YouTube as well. So he is part of it,
You might have seen my face before on Prima Coffee videos.
Yep. So Steve is well known in the coffee industry. By the way, so your technique does not require soaked up paper, correct? You just like to do just a dry paper on the top there.
Yeah, I have no problem using a non-rinsed Kalita filter. I think that they're very taste neutral. I do rinse paper filters if I think that they're very paper tasting. Kalita in general, I don't really have that issue with. Versus like a Chemex filter, I definitely would rinse.
Again, Steve is using the P64. I'm using DF64.
Okay. Okay, so we're dosing 16 grams.
Yep.
Actually, I'm also going to, I don't know if you can see this. I have a lunar right here. So I'm going to weigh my server because what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to measure my beverage weight. So we'll take a little TDS reading and see what our extraction level is.
You know what? That's not a bad idea, Steve. Yep. Yeah, I do have a second Akaya or Lunar as well. So my server weight is, yep. Okay, we're gonna do a 16-gram dose.
Yeah. I have a little bit of overage, so scooping some of that off. 16.2 to start. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my WDT tool, and I'm just going to kind of stir this bed to try to flatten it out and even it out. It's not really necessary. That's just something, kind of a habit that I've picked up.
Okay, so let's do that as well. I'm just going to make sure I want to be identical as possible, so we are going to have the same experience using this cup.
Okay.
And what is your water temp? Boiling water, correct?
Boiling water, yeah. So it's cooled a little bit because I've, kind of set it aside already. But boiling water it's probably cooled down to maybe 209 or something by now. What I will do, my first pour.
Yep, go ahead.
My first pour is 50 grams, and I will wait probably 40 to 45 seconds. I'm going to watch for the bubbles in the bloom to dissipate. I want it basically to be fully saturated before I continue. So 50-gram bare kettle pour.
Okay, I think I'm going to go right after Steve.
Yeah. So I went a little bit over, and then I'm going to also wet WDT as well. And that, again, is just to kind of make sure that everything's saturated really quickly, really evenly. I want to help the coffee degas and do that initial saturation.
Okay, and so how long you wait, Steve?
Well, I'm at 45 seconds right now, and I think it's done, so I'm going to proceed. I'm at 50 seconds, and here's my first 100-gram pour.
Yep, go up to 150.
That's right. And I'm using the MeloDrip to kind of help it evenly spread that and minimize the agitation. There we go. So there's our first pour. And now I let it drain fully. My target brew time for this is going to be around 3 minutes. Sometimes it's a little short, sometimes it's a little longer. 3 minutes is the average that I look for. But that first pour I let drain fully. And I find that really helps to emphasize the acidity for me. Like I think that it helps to bring out, some bright, fresh, kind of fruity acidity, which is what I like in my pour over coffee. So if you're not really into that flavor, this method might not be for you, but for lighter roast coffees, I really like it. Okay, so it's just about fully drained, which means that I'm going to set up for my second pour. And as I said before, it starts with a bare kettle. I'm just going to rinse the grounds down from the outside. I'm going to try to keep that below 20 grams of water.
Again,
I was right at that. That's good. And then final MeloDrip to 256. There we are. Now we'll let it just drip drain fully. I had a nice flat bed. Oh, so go ahead.
Do you use the WDT after that or no?
No, well, sometimes I do, but for this one, I'm not going to because my bed is already flat.
Okay.
I will use a WDT occasionally if it's somewhat mounded up one side or the other. I'll just sort of kind of prod it back into the center to flatten it out.
30 to 40 right now.
Mine is finishing
very close to 3.
Mine is finishing right in 305 basically was the brew time.
Yeah, I'm at 250. Yeah, around 250. Very close.
Okay, so I
got 16 grams in, and then I'm got about 220 grams of coffee.
Okay, mine is 213 out.
Okay. About 7-gram difference there.
Okay. I'm also going to grab a small cup real quick. So this cup, I just had this sitting in the freezer, and that's going to help me cool down my sample.
Yep.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this paddle I'm going to stir my brew, and that's to make sure that it's pretty evenly homogeneous.
Yep.
Could probably use the handle. I'm just giving it a good quick stir. And now what I'll do is I'll take this pipette, grab a little bit of this coffee, put it into this cup, and then I'm going to swirl it to help it cool. And it doesn't take very much because I've frozen this cup, so it's quite cold.
And so right now, what Steve is doing is we are going to check the TDS.
That's right. Okay, from there, I'm going to take a 0.5 milliliter of the liquid and place that on it's called a refractometer. So I'm going to place that on there. And I'm going to take a reading.
So Steve is going to use a BST, a refractometer. Okay. And I'm going to be using so this is the dye fluid. Guys see Steve's side?
Yeah, can you see and hear me okay? Poon, you're frozen on my side, but I can hear you.
Am I frozen on your side? Okay, hold on a second.
Just sort of choppy video.
Okay, hold on. How about now?
Yep, you're moving now.
Good. Okay, good. All right.
So
what number did you get?
My TDS is stabilizing at 1.54, which puts me at 20.96% extraction, which is pretty good. Not too bad.
You say, what was your TDS again?
1.54%.
1.54, okay. I'm at 1.93.
193?
Hold on. Yeah. That's still hot, so it's still warm.
Here's a question. How much do I aim for? So for filter coffee, I really like 1.5% TDS as like an average. For me, that's usually it's a good strength. It usually has good body. It's not too thin, too tea-like or anything like that.
Yep.
It depends on the coffee though, because you can hit 1.5% on two completely different coffees and they'll have a different presentation. So even though they're the same strength, they have a different body, they have a different texture, they have different acidity. So usually I like my filter coffee somewhere between 1.3 to 1.6%. 1.5 is very often I'll take a sip and say, hey, that's a really good coffee. That's the strength that I like.
So right now I'm around 1.7% right now.
Oh, it's falling.
Yeah, falling. Yeah.
Oh, was it hot? If it's hot or cold, it can take a little while.
Now I'm went down to 1.68.
168. Okay.
Yeah, 168.
I mean, if you had more liquid in your cup for the same dose, I would expect your strength to be a little bit lower.
Yeah, because I'm at
more water added.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried it yet?
Yeah, I tried it. Taste it. Tell me what you think.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay. Let's see. It's not as bright as I want it to be.
Okay.
Okay.
What kind of flavors are you getting out of it?
Definitely acidic, like citrus. Definitely got a lot of citrus coming out.
Mm-hmm.
come to finish, man, again, very tea-like. Did you get any floor?
I would say yes. I still think it's a little underrepresented. So so for me, this is it's a lush, bright, sweet coffee. It's very, very nice to drink to me. I'm definitely getting some citrus. I'm not really getting bergamot like I did before, but there's maybe like a little bit of orange, a tiny bit of grapefruit, I would say. The sweetness to me is still very honey-like. It's very sort of honey syrupy sweetness. There's a little bit of floral, but it's sort of muted, I guess.
Muted, yep, you're right.
I would say there's also kind of an herbal quality to this. I'm getting almost like, I mean, I got lemongrass the last time that I made this. This isn't really lemongrass so much to me. It's almost like parsley, sort of. It just has kind of a fresh herbal sensation.
You know what?
I'm not really getting the flavor of tea, but it is a tea-like body. It's very thin. It finishes quickly, kind of washes over the palate, doesn't overstay its welcome, and then it's gone.
Okay, so let's put it this way. It's not exciting coffee, okay? But very pleasant coffee.
It's very pleasant, yeah. I guess it's not groundbreaking, but it's very enjoyable.
No, very enjoyable, but it's not groundbreaking.
I would say it's a typical geisha to me. A lot of geisha coffees are very subtle. Sometimes they can be heightened florals or something a little bit, I guess exciting and out of the ordinary relative to other like Ethiopian heirloom coffees. But to me, a geisha is just a kind of a known quantity, is how I would describe it. Like I tend to know what I'm getting out of it. Also, it's a natural process, so we are experiencing kind of a little bit more of that, fruit forward, sugary kind of flavor from the processing. But I will also say it's a very clean natural. It's an extremely clean natural. I will say as it's cooling. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. What's your TDS now?
Son, 1.5 fluctuate right now, so it's not quite. Yeah.
Well, if I had to guess, as I said, we use the same recipe. We use the same grind size. We use the same water. We brewed as closely as possible, and you ended up with more water in your server. I would guess
that's right. Yep.
You're probably maybe hovering around 1.5, if not very slightly below it. I would expect that you have a little bit more water content that's diluted.
So now I'm at 1. Now I'm at 1.3.
It seems like that's having a little bit of trouble.
1.4.
Okay. Tough
again, so I mean, I gotta play with the DieFlit version 2. So again,
yeah, we have to get you a VST to compare to. We'll let you borrow it.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Overall, I'm impressed. I mean, Taiwan is a coffee growing region. I'm not familiar with it at all. I don't think that the production is very high.
This is the first time I ever had coffee from Taiwan.
Yeah, same here. I think that this was a suitably decent coffee for sure. Obviously, it was a cup of excellence coffee. There was, some consideration there that it's a good coffee, going in. And it was expensive. I don't mind paying more for kind of a different kind of out of the way coffee region.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, because I think you are buying the experience. It's.
Yeah. Oh, well, also, if it's a little bit more difficult to grow, if it's a little bit more difficult to market, even, if there isn't much of an existing export market for Taiwanese coffee, like that can add to the costs just getting it out into our hands. So, there's multiple reasons that this is a more expensive coffee. Cup of Excellence certainly is probably top of the list, but it's honestly, I think it's pretty decent. It's not something I would pay for and drink every day, but it's definitely a good coffee.
Definitely, because again, I mean, that's just like the geisha from Santa Barbara, right? The California Santa Barbara. So I mean, if you don't know what geisha from Santa Barbara here.
The free coffee.
So this is the California grown, okay. The roaster, the grower are named by French coffee. All right. So this is their geisha. So again, very tea-like, very pleasant. Is that groundbreaking? No, but again, they're really nice. So I'm not, just like Steve said, I'm not going to drink this coffee every single day, but once in a while, this is really special treat.
Yeah.
So far, what is your favorite brewing method so far? Origami is your number one?
Yeah, I would say so. You know, I've tried a lot of brewing methods over the years. That you can see a few more about on my shelf behind
Yep.
me. I do switch around. I do experiment now and then. But you know, for most of my brewing, if I'm just like it's afternoon and I just want to pick me up, origami is my favorite one to just pick off the shelf and go for. There's a few reasons for that, but I initially bought it because it's versatile. It has a standard cone shape, so it can take a V60 or other cone style filter, but then it also has the fluted ridges, so it can take a Kalita filter.
Kalita paper.
And what I have found from brewing with an origami with Kalita filters is that you get a much faster flow through a flat bottom versus a Kalita wave. Because the Kalita wave dripper only has 3 kind of smaller holes in the bottom, whereas this is completely open. So that's the one thing that I really like about it is I can use a flat bottom filter. I can have that flat bed that I've been looking for kind of low agitation brews. But then the drain rate is completely open. So it doesn't have any trouble draining. It doesn't stall on your brews or anything like that. That's the main thing that I really like about the origami. Now, I will say, this past weekend, I tried a technique that I saw MeloDrip share, which is to take a Kalita wave filter and kind of, well, first you pre-wet it and then kind of poke the bottom into a cone shape. And I was surprised that brew went about 15 seconds faster. I brewed 2 side by side. So one had a flat bottom, the other was a pointed bottom. The pointy brewed about 15 seconds faster, but hit the same strength, the same TDS, and had a slightly higher extraction for the same dose and basically the same method of brewing. That's only 2 brews, but that's kind of interesting to me in that I might be able to achieve higher extractions with cone-shaped filters without having to change my technique or recipe at all, which is exciting. Sometimes that can be a real big pick-me-up or pick-up in flavor. So like,
sure.
I will play with that a little bit more. I think I'll just use some actual cone-shaped filters rather than poking my Kalita wave filters. But I thought it was interesting. It was a promising technique.
By the way, I'm gonna big shout out to Commodore Proxy for super chat as well. Big shout out to Commodore. And then let's take a look at some the comments from live chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Hold on, Steve. Okay, so how much? So Ian was asking how much you aim for TDS. You said 1.5, right?
1.5 is pretty good to me. And as I said, 1.3 to 1.6 is probably where I usually enjoy my filter coffee brews.
Okay. Okay, so Ian also asked about TDS. Okay, hold on. Someone asking about the passenger coffee. Carlos is asking about Have you had a passenger coffee before?
I've had passenger, I would say once or twice. To my recollection, they're fairly light roaster.
Yeah.
But I don't have a ton of experience with their coffees.
Have you ever used a Lily drip?
A Lily drip. I've never used one personally. I've seen it. It's the thing that kind of pokes the bottom of the Kalita filter or other flat bottom filter up. Or actually, I guess you can use it with cone filters too. So it pokes the bottom upward, so it creates sort of a torus shape, like a donut shape. But I've never really brewed with it, so I don't have a lot of experience.
And then BYB asks, did you compare Origami versus Orea? I think Orea is fast. Yeah. So Carlos, we're gonna BYB. We're gonna do some comparison coming up. Okay, coming days and coming week. Have you used the Orea before, Steve?
No, I have not. I mean, I know that it's a sort of steeper,
Yep.
flat bottom dripper, which is interesting. I think that there's been a lot of kind of playing around with the shape of a cone and how it affects and impacts coffee brewing, which is really exciting.
But you know what I'm telling you. So how often, how much time do you spend time on developing recipes for your origami?
I will say mostly because I don't have the caffeine tolerance that I used to have.
I know.
It's usually a little bit at a time. Maybe I'll brew 2 coffees side by side, and I won't drink all of both of them. I'll just taste and compare and take some notes. Recipe development for me is usually on the course of weeks. Little iterations, little tweaks and improvements here and there. I find what I think seems to work. I maybe test an idea the next day or maybe later in the same day. But I'm not really sitting down and brewing 20 cups of coffee at a time and tasting them all. It would just mess me up these days.
So by the way, people are watching this video right now. Again, the developing recipes takes time. Okay, it takes time. So if you fail at first time, it's okay.
Sure.
You're gonna fail again
I
and
fail
again.
all the time.
Yep. So take your time. There's no perfect recipe, and you are going to start develop your own the recipe by changing your grind size, start with, and then maybe play with the water temperature if you wanted to. Just have fun with it.
Absolutely.
Okay, have fun.
Yeah, and listen to yourself. Like at the end of the day, the thing that matters the most is that you enjoy the cup of coffee that you're making.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if your recipe doesn't match what somebody else is doing, because that cup of coffee that they're drinking tastes good to them. And maybe it doesn't taste good to you. Maybe you prefer something else. You can just listen to yourself and figure it out from there. So there's a lot of ways to make a good cup of coffee.
Exactly, that's true. So like a Commodore, just all the Orea. Yeah, I mean Oreas are fantastic. Okay, it's fun to use. All right, you don't have to worry about breaking things. And yeah, if I were you, stay away from ceramic. Get the plastic. All right, get the plastic. And so, what are you tasting right now? So, I mean, coffee's been cooled down for a while.
It's cooled down a lot. It's getting a little bit more of a dry finish, which to me is it's not really like their bag says white tea. I'm getting a little bit more of like an oxidized black tea. That's
there
kind
we go. Yep, that's it.
It's kind of the dryness that I'm experiencing.
Yep.
So it is still rather tea-like.
Yep.
I'm not really picking up much more floral, but I want to say that the acidity has developed a little bit. It is not plain, sort of orangey anymore. It's kind of shifting into peach territory for me. I don't know if you're getting that. I know you love peach notes in your coffee.
Oh man, I love peach. I love light tea.
A little bit of peach on it.
I can see that. Yeah, I can see that.
Their bag also says pear. I don't really see the malic acidity that would be associated with the pear. It's definitely a little bit more stone fruit right now. So sort of went citrus to stone fruit.
Yep, stone fruit. Okay, so by the way, if you don't know what stone fruit is, anything has a seed in it. Okay, so that's the stone fruit. Because the first time I heard that,
peaches, plums, nectarines, apricots, those sort of things. So for me right now, it's definitely a little bit more peach specifically.
All right, Steve. So any news on Kaya front? Orbit is coming up?
On the Orbit? Sorry, you put out a little bit there.
Orbit.
So you're asking for Orbit news? Nothing to share just yet. You can follow Akaya for any news and updates. So we took a little bit of a pause for holiday breaks and things. Our U.S. team took the end of December off between Christmas and New Year. So that's an extensive pause, and then there's some catch up that has to happen after that. So, we wanted everybody to have a good holiday break. And then the Taiwan team had Lunar New Year off. So those two things sort of rolled right into each other. And, that necessitates a little bit of a pause for Orbit stuff. We're also working on some tweaks. We don't have anything to announce yet, but we are working on some tweaks. So there will be news hopefully pretty soon about when we can expect some new drops, and I'm sure everybody will be excited as we are.
Sounds good. By the way, everybody watching, it's about 28 people right now watching. Make sure go subscribe Steve's channel. Okay, Steve Ryan. I'm gonna put his link down below as well. So Steve has pretty interesting videos, and but Steve has a lot of videos. Yeah, he has a lot of videos from the old days at the Prema. If you go to like Prema Coffee, you're gonna see Steve everywhere. So again, he's the true YouTuber himself. Make sure follow him on Instagram and especially YouTube. Anyway, thank you so much for having us this morning, Steve.
Thanks, Hoon. Good brewing with you, man.
All right, talk to you later. So that's the Steve from Akaya. Okay, that was a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun spending time with him. Hopefully, we're gonna do some more session with various people out there. So should be a lot of fun. Okay, and we are going to. I don't know. I'm gonna talk to Steve after the fact and come up with some really good recipes. Okay, for you guys. And also, let's see here. I'm gonna shout out to Bruce Papas. Again, we're gonna big thanks to Commodore Proxy for super chat. Let's see here. I think we are good. Okay, we are good. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday afternoon, and see you guys next time.